Action. And that's what it is on another episode of Film Masterclass with Kunle Afolayan. In the last episode, we talked about production process and we covered art direction, production design from the perspective of the figurine. And this episode, we're going to be talking about cinematography and all of the other things, that are tied to cinematography on a movie set. But we're going to look at it from what we did with the figurine. You can see that is Arri Alexa, one of the cameras that we've used. But in the meantime, let's go on this short break, and when we come back, it will be me and you talking cinematography and all the technical areas on the figurine. We shot figurine with Sony EX3, lettuce adapter, and ultra prime lenses. And it's a combination of the three. It was a new technology at that time, and Sony made EX1 and EX3. EX3 comes with detachable lens, and EX1 comes with an attached lens. You can't detach it. The function of the lettuce is to give it the 35mm field sensor. Of course, ultra prime lenses is one of the top range prime lenses that you have around the world, and they're quite expensive. That was our gear in terms of cinematography, and the DP's name was Yinka Edward. Yinka and I went through the pre-production, and we looked at, we decided the feel for the film, and all of that. But when you get a set, it's usually a completely different ball game. At that time, we had, a decent light to use. Yes, we had the camera and we had the grip. And when you say grip, on the grip you have the tracks, you have the dolly, you have the crane. These days they use slider. In those days there was no slider. You also have the tripod, you have the STEADICAM. In those days you use STEADICAM and you do handheld and you do all of that. So, but it was fun on the set of the figurine, but at the same time we had a bit of issues because sometimes I remember the adapters will, for no reason, just I think one of the glass would derail, and we had to deal with it, a bit before we can come back to or get it to focus. It was a new technology and it's not something we were used to, but somehow we were able to pull it off.
According to folklore legend, anyone touched by ARAROMIRE will be rewarded with 7 years of prosperity.
All right, so we both, Yinka and I, decided on the looks and feel for the film, and we agree that the first 7 years will have a completely different feel from the 7 years after. If you look at the figurine, you see that all the times they were in NYSC, and the time we see Femi's father's house, and all of that, the NYSC, the feel was completely different. And immediately you see the 7 years after, it was brighter, it was more bluish, it was more modern. This was intentional because we decided that, okay, look, we also want to use the feel to depict the period. Also, if you look at most of the interior shots, they were lit with shades. It was half light, half dark. This was also intentional because of the genre of the film. It was a thriller, and we wanted to use light and cinematography to also depict the mood, of the film. So a lot of times you see light cast on half of their faces.
Guilty or not guilty? Did you hear that? Guilty, she says. Just like Shola. From the beginning, Shola has always cheated on Mona. And I wanted to give Mona the true love that she truly deserves. But no, instead, she chose that idiot over me.
So when you're prepping for a film, you know, I mean, in production, it is important to do adequate test shoots or have enough dialogue with your DOP, director of photography, and your gaffer, and you as a director. Because when a scene is set, the outcome of how it looks, you know, on camera and how the final picture is going to look, even after it's graded, it's vested in your hand as a director, and also the DOP and the gaffer.
Get me my inhaler.
Oh, Ronnie! Get me my inhaler! So this is why it's important to do a test shoot before the proper photography is done. But if you don't have the time, you guys should just have references. You know, as a director, you need to tell the DP what you want the lighting to look like. There were some other scenes, you know, I mean, if you're lighting an exterior that is like so open, it means you're gonna need a lot of light. Even if your lenses are so fast and all of that, you still need light. When it comes to framing, different directors have different styles and, you know, and pattern and all of that. Some directors just focus on directing actors, you know, the actors' performances. And some directors are also into framing, and they work hand in hand with the DOP. On the set of Figurine, there are some scenes that, okay, Yiga and I will read, then we'll plan how I want it plotted. And then when we get on set, you know, we'll collectively look at, okay, this is what we've planned, it should work that way. But once we realize that, okay, maybe it's not flowing well, maybe the original plan is not flowing well, you know, we change it. Sometimes as a DOP, it's Inca's call actually to also propose how he feels that the scenes should be shot. So a lot of times I'm always open to that for the DP to, from his own perspective, his point of view, tell me how he feels the scene should be lit and shot. If I have my own original thought and idea, I could say, okay, yeah, I like that, but can we add this and can we add that? But we have to agree. You know, it's not a case of, oh, this is how I want it and give it to me that way. No, there has to be synergy in every production. And there are some scenes, if you look at Figurine, there's a particular scene where I said to myself, look, I want to do this scene in a 360 shot, and I don't want us to cut it at all. And that scene involves Shola and Femi, that's myself and Ramsey. And this time, don't forget, I'm acting at the same time directing. And we also have some extras, like 3-4 of them. So we didn't want to use STEADICAM because, of course, it's, for me, it's not going to be the same flow. And what we did was we had to set, this is where the grip guys comes in, because they're always involved in the whole camera setup. So we had to do a 360 track set and put the camera. And we had to first do like a walk into the scene. I remember Ramsey then suggested that we put, I think he found a millipede that is really big. And he said, how can we put this in front of the camera? And what we did was we had to cut a tree. Then we put the millipede and we stick in the tree like it's a standing tree. And when the camera tracks, the camera will pass by the millipede, like you're passing by something that is crawling on the tree, then move forward and comes to us. It takes creative mind, to come up with those kind of a thing. And then we cut, then start the tracking shot, which goes on and on, until we're out of that scene. For me, every time I look at that, I'm always very like, yes, we did it. You just take, a group of people of like minds to come together and decide, how they will conquer something that seemed like a mountain. There's another scene, the scene where the priest died. That we shot at the Oshun Oshogbo. And, we prepared to have a dummy and put the dummy on the water to flow. But that was the first time we'll be trying something like that. And so the dummy was not ready when we're going to film. They said we can only have that location for 2 hours. And we've already spent 1 hour trying to figure out how we're going to shoot. So I said, okay, bring the original actor. Then we can't put the camera in the water. We can't go underwater. And when you get stuck like this, your creative cap and thinking cap needs to come on. So I said to myself, nobody could figure it out. I'm like, okay, let's do it. Then I pulled my shirt. People were wondering, okay, what does he want to do? I said, bring the original actor, get him into costume. Then I entered the water first to see if it's shallow or if it's deep and, and all of that. How do we make it happen? And I realized the water was quite shallow. So if I go in it, it's going to be like here or so for me. I said, okay, bring him. And people were wondering. And I said to the camera guys, look, set the camera. You can't go in the water, but let's set this camera. Because this you can't do 2-3 times. It has to be one. Then I went under the water to check. Then I came out. Then I said to him I asked him to lie down, on my back. And people were wondering what was going on. I think I first checked with someone first. I had to put someone to see if I could do it. That was it. I put him here and I had to swim a bit to carry him and have him float, and that was how we achieved that scene. These are some of the things when you're doing guerrilla filmmaking like we could do around here. We don't have, huge budgets. We don't have sophisticated cameras. So you need to make do with what we have. Filmmaking is such an interesting profession and venture. There are some scenes that every time I look at them, they excite me because one, as a director, as a filmmaker, you have to learn to improvise a lot of times, during production. A lot of improvisations were done on, in fact, every films that I have done, but on the Figurine. Let me make reference to a few. There were scenes where the script will say, day, and it's already getting dark and you want to shoot a day scene, and all you need to do is you need to light day for night. The scene in the Figurine where Femi's sister Lara and was being chased out of the house, and she carried her luggage and trying to explain that she's not involved in what was going on. That scene was shot at about 5:30 almost 6 a.m. in the morning because we shot all night. The original script says evening, you know, and we were like, okay, the day, and we were just begging and pleading to God that the day should not break. You know, it was such a beautiful scene. At that point, everybody was already tired, you know, because it was morning. We shot all night and all of that. But if we had, you know, maybe shot it in the night, we would have been struggling also to ensure that it doesn't get completely dark, you know. But shooting it early in the morning, we were struggling with the fact that they shouldn't break, you know, completely. But for me, it looks so good. So a lot of people won't see flaws, you know, but you as a filmmaker, when you do some scenes and you'll be saying to yourself, no, that is not how I want it, you know. And I do that a lot. I'm always doing reshoots. The scene where Femi arrived from overseas and, you know, he came to the party and he's seen Shola after 7 years. I was going to cancel that scene because that was not the original plan. As a matter of fact, Yinka Edward didn't shoot that scene because it wasn't available. And we got a location. I was not pleased with the extras because they look young. I wanted something more robust, you know. But we filmed it and I said I wasn't going to use it. Somehow we got stuck because I couldn't refilm. There was no budget. I decided, okay, to edit it and reduce it. And it happens to turn out that it's one of people's most favorite scenes, you know, in the film. The scene with Linda talking to Femi, and, you know, you guys won't see it, but a real cinematographer or filmmaker will see some of the lapses in that scene. But hey, the drama was good, everything was really nice, and people enjoyed it, and that's it. If you must be a filmmaker, whether a DOP or whether a sound person, whether an art director, whether a director or even a producer, you have to know when to say it is enough. You have to know when to move on to what is next. And at the same time, you really need to understand that craft is craft. And a lot of people who are watching, if you look at most of the actors that I've worked with, when you see them in some other films, they look different from what they look like on Golden Effect films. And this is because we don't look at how you talk when you interpret your script. We don't look at how beautiful you look. We look at everything together because presentation is key. Those who are given or we're trying to present the film to, you know, we also need to respect the fact that, you know, they spend money when it comes to consuming, because these are products that, you know, people pay to consume. So we've talked about production from the point of cinematography, and we covered makeup, we covered art direction, we covered all of that. Then we covered cinematography. We've talked about a few scenes, and also introduced the role of grip department and the gaffers. Production is way bigger than these few things that I've talked about, but as far as figuring is concerned, these are the few that, you know, we could cover in this episode. And in the next episode, we're going to be talking about a whole lot of other aspects of production beyond just cinematography. Until then, my name is Kunle Afolayan.